In this video, we're going to talk about how you can actually track your success, at least when it comes to marketing. Now, you may have heard this phrase before: you really can't manage what you can't measure. And in marketing, it's the numbers that are everything. So you've got to be able to try to measure where you can so you know exactly where you're going. Now, tracking your success online when it comes to online marketing can be a bit confusing, only because it changes all the time. I mean, there's lots of different jargon, things like CPC and EPC and CPM and everything else that they come up with. There's a whole bunch of different terms, there's different tracking metrics. Sometimes you'll even hear about retargeting or remarketing because different companies call the exact same thing, which, by the way, they are the same thing. They actually have different words for the exact same thing. So it can be really confusing. Now, this whole thing is just not as daunting as you may think. It's just that these terms are new, and you're probably a little bit new. And remember, the internet, technically as a platform for marketing, is still new. In the span of time, and newspapers have been around for hundreds of years, the platform of the internet is really, 10 or 15 years old? It's really fairly new. And that's where all these new phrases are coming from. So if you feel a bit confused and overwhelmed, give yourself permission. You're just new. Do it a few times. It becomes a lot easier. So let's talk about a particular tool that you should absolutely be using, and that is Google Analytics. It's free. Google gives it to you for free. It is really not that hard to install the code. There's lots of different videos out there that'll show you how to do that. So if you don't have Google Analytics set up on your website, that is the very first thing that you should do. Make sure that you are tracking your data. Next, let's talk about some key analytics metrics that you should be using to track your success. Now, the very first one is called bounce rate. And really, this is the percentage of people who visit your page. Okay, so they're coming into your site on a particular page, but then they bounce off. They don't actually do anything else. And that's an important thing. So it's the very first page that they see of your site, and then they bounce off. That's what a bounce page is, or bounce rate. In the strictest sense, a high bounce rate is really not ideal, but there are times when you might have a high bounce rate and you would expect it. For example, if you're doing an advertising campaign to a particular, let's say a sales page or a squeeze page, and you really don't want them doing any of their action except either buying or opting in for an email list or something along those lines, and there really isn't any other option except for them to either opt in or to bounce off. In that particular scenario, you would expect a high bounce rate, but if it was a blog post where there is other things that they could be doing on the page, you want to make sure that the bounce rate is a little bit lower. At least you would expect it to be lower. You'd want them to read other posts. Maybe want them to opt in. You might want them to click on an ad. They might want to click around different categories on the navigation bar. So if you have a high bounce rate on a blog post, something may be up there. Now let's take a quick look at what that looks like in Google Analytics. Okay, so what we're looking at is the actual Google Analytics for one website property that we have. Now, this doesn't get a high level of traffic, but it is something that helps us to teach you exactly what to look for. So let's go ahead and jump into behavior. We're going to go down to where it says site content, and then we're going to click where it says all pages. And once this loads up, you're going to see all the different pages that are being tracked on our particular website for the date range. Now what we're going to do is we're going to look, you can see going across here all these different metrics. We're going to click right here where it says bounce rate, and we're going to sort by bounce rate. Okay, so right now it's sorting by the very top bounce rate on down. So you can see we've got free holiday gift had a high bounce rate. Now that was just a particular sales page, so we'd expect that. Free versus paid WordPress themes, again, high bounce rate, but we're not really having a whole lot of high level entrances either. So let's take a look at one that's got a bunch of different entrances to it. So in this case, we've got 8 people that have seen this particular page, this little affiliate marketing, how to use WordPress for affiliate marketing. 8 people came in the page, 100% of them bounced out. So there might be, and this is what's interesting, they spent 12 minutes on the page. Okay, so there's a lot of time that's being spent on the page. So we're giving them good content. We're just probably have an opportunity to give them a call to action or to do something to actually lower that bounce rate. And in doing that, we could actually not only lower bounce rate, but we might be able to take advantage of having them maybe opt into a certain list that we have or promote a certain affiliate product. There could be some opportunities there. So that's just an example of how you can use bounce rate. Now I'm going to go ahead and show the rest of the pages here. Let me just adjust this so we can see them all. I'm going to scroll down just so you can see some other pages, because you can see they're not all 100%. So then you've got some other pages. So look at this one. So make money with a WordPress blog. Okay, so we've got that one coming in. We've got 67 people that have seen this page. This is unique users who have seen the page, spending a few minutes with the article, not too bad. Bounce rate 80%. So again, most people are coming in, they're finding kind of some generic details. We probably have some opportunities to go ahead and do a better call to action on this. Now, if we scroll down, actually scroll back up here, Let's see. So 28%, we've got, this is our membership login. So of course we'd expect that to have low bounce rate. So that's normal. This is the home page. So our home page right now, 60% bounce rate. So ideally, really, we'd want that even lower, being a home page. So you can see what the metrics can actually give you opportunity. It can guide you on how to better improve your marketing. In this case, the bounce rate metric. Okay, now let's go ahead and talk about sessions. Now, sessions are basically counting how many times a particular user interacts with your content for a given period of time. Okay, so how many times, again, so if I visited that site, let's say WP Training Videos, and I'm one particular user, I'm a unique user, and I go back to that site or that page maybe 3 or 4 times, it would count as 3 or 4 sessions, but only one unique user. So when it comes to sessions, the more page views you have, that's great because it shows that people are coming back. But again, it really depends upon the purpose of your site. If you want people coming back to that particular page over and over again, that's great. If they're just reloading it because it's confusing and they're trying to figure out what to do next, well, maybe that's not so good. So again, these numbers don't tell you exactly what to do, but they do give you an idea as long as you understand the purpose of the page you're looking at. Let's go ahead and take a look again at that Google Analytics page and we'll see what we're talking about here. So we're back to our all pages report and you can see page views and unique page views. Now this is really, page views are switching over to be called sessions. That's actually what they're switching this to become. So page views are sessions, unique page views are really the users. Okay. So let's go down here and we'll see you've got, let's see. So here's an example. So how to safely upgrade your WordPress site. We had 19 unique users, 22 sessions. That means some people were reloading the page or maybe came back to it for a particular reason. You got the same thing happening here with the home page. So people that are coming back to the home page, 136 unique people, 156 sessions. You've got this one interesting, member WordPress training. So what this is actually our members dashboard. So you've got 33 unique members that have come in for that particular page. You've got 61 unique sessions. So we can tell that people are refreshing a lot on this particular page. Now, again, what does this tell us? It depends upon what the unique purpose of the page is. If it's a page that we would expect to be refreshed, which in the case of a dashboard, you kind of would, you'd expect it to not necessarily be refreshed in the browser, but maybe they've visited a course and then they go back to the dashboard page. Well, that would be expected. You would expect them to do that because that's kind of what launches the next new course or lesson. And so that's kind of normal. Would we expect it up on a blog post? Not really, but we're really not seeing that. We're seeing on the blog post a lot of people coming in and then spending time for that particular session, and that's really it. Now let's talk about time on site. Now we already sort of pointed out that number earlier, and I'll show you it again in just a second. But basically this is what it says. It measures how long somebody's spending time on a particular page. And this really gives you an idea of how much engagement there is on the page, because presumably if they're spending time on a particular page, it's because they're engaged with it in some way, shape, or form. Either they're reading or they're scrolling through. And then once they decide to click on something, that's when that clock stops and they load up the next page and the clock starts on that new page. Now, again, remember, not all pages are meant to have high time on site. So you wouldn't necessarily want them to have high time on site on a home page, especially if it's 20 minutes, 15 minutes, because really, how much is there to do on your homepage? They should be making a decision and clicking through. And if they're spending a ton of time on a particular page and they really shouldn't be, you have to think to yourself, why? Is it because there's some sort of confusion? Are they trying to figure something out? And could you make it easier to actually take an action, especially in our fast-paced society? So let's go ahead through and take a look at what time on site looks like in Google Analytics. Okay, we're back to our all pages report, and you can see here average time on page. Okay, so right here, time on page, that's what we're looking at. So we're going to go through and you can see 1 minute, 46 seconds. A lot of these are probably just little robots that have come through because they didn't have time to load the page at all. It just counted itself. 14 seconds, 3 seconds, but 12 minutes, right? So we pointed this out earlier. There's a lot of engagement on this particular page for these users. So that's something that's pretty interesting. They found something there that they were interested in, but because the bounce rate was so high, that's what gives us a clue to think, we had 10 unique people that didn't really do anything else. They didn't come back to the page. They found what they needed. They spent 12 minutes on average on that particular page, and yet they bounced right off. They didn't take another action. So what can we do? What can we do to improve this page to make it better for our site. And again, that's an example of how the metrics can help you. You can see down here, we've got the same sort of issue. So how to set up an RSS feed for your WordPress site. We had 22 people come and see that page. They spent about 6 minutes looking through, and then 95% of them bounced out. Now, again, that doesn't mean everybody bounced, but most people did. And so we want to make sure, is there something else that we could do that's a better call to action to have them click through so that we don't show such a high bounce rate on that particular page? Next, we're going to look at new versus returning visitors. Now, again, pretty basic stuff here. New is how many people are coming to your site for the first time, and returning users are the people who are actually coming back once Google Analytics has sort of already tagged them as having been to your site at least once before. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. Okay, now for this one, we're going to go to a different section. It's called the audience section, and this is really just all about the people who are coming to visit your site. We're going to go to where it says behavior. And from here, we're going to go to where it says new versus returning. So we're going to click there, and you can see new visitor and returning visitor. So we've got 251 sessions that were started. We've got 64 that were from returning visitors. So again, what does this tell us? Well, if we're trying to get a bunch of new traffic to a particular sales page, that's something that we would need to take a look at, because if the new visitor account isn't going up, that number isn't going up, then maybe something's wrong with our particular traffic source. If we see a lot of visitors that are returning, but we're not seeing them actually return to, let's say, the blog, for example, well, that's going to tell something. That means the blog content maybe was useful for that initial question that they searched for, but they didn't think it was useful enough to come back to. If you have a membership site, as this particular website does, you will see that the return rate is going to be higher on certain pages because obviously those people are coming back to the login page to return. So again, do the specific numbers mean anything in and of themselves? Just because we show 250 versus 64, or what is that, 4 times the new visitors versus returning visitors, does that really mean anything? It doesn't. What it means though is data that you can use based upon your particular website, and you look at your website, you look at the data and go, should that be happening? And if it's something that you want to happen, that's great. But if it's not something that you want to happen, look at it and figure out what might be causing that and how can we adjust our marketing or our content to have those numbers adjust a little differently and ideally serve our audience a little bit better. Now let's talk about unique users. Now we've already pointed this out earlier, but this is basically your site's unique users, and you can track this month to month if you have a high traffic site, maybe week to week, but it really doesn't matter daily. Dailies could be just something that you happen to rank for because Google changed a SEO ranking of one of your pages, and maybe you see a spike for a day and it goes away, something like that, or holiday traffic, or maybe you ran a particular campaign. So you could use it to verify, but I really wouldn't get caught up too much on that number day to day. So roughly we look at it month to month. And if you observe an increase in the unique users for that month, you'd want to go back and check, okay, what were the blog posts or what were the topics that I did that actually improve that? Or what marketing strategies, for example, did you start emailing your list and letting them know that you have new blog posts? Did you particularly do maybe a different Facebook campaign and share those blog posts in a unique way? Have you experimented with other social media aspects, like maybe started an Instagram campaign and shared your blog post that way? And did that improve unique users? So all of these different things, you look at this number of unique users, which we saw earlier, and then you want to just track and see, okay, what's the trending for this and is it going up? So here's your seriously simple marketing hack. And believe it or not, it doesn't have anything to do with Google Analytics because we really want you to do that. That's just something you should do. It's not really a hack. It's not a shortcut. Just do that. Set up your analytics account. But what we want you to do is take a look at data and start getting used to what other people are doing. So go to alexa.com, and then at the bottom of that page, you're going to be able to type in basically any particular website. It can be yours, it could be a competitor, anything that you really want, the biggest brands that you know of, you can put in there. Review the results of that with the results, and it's all free. So they're going to give you some results, review those results, and just sort of study the factors and go, okay, well, here's what this report is showing for this website, and what is that telling me? So get used to looking at the sites that you know are successful. Go to Alexa, analyze them through Alexa, take a look at the data, and just practice. You're not going to this isn't a quiz. You're not going to have to be right or wrong about anything. It's just practice looking at data, analyzing, and just kind of going, that's interesting. And you're going to be getting practice doing that. And then the analytics stuff that you're going to be doing, Google Analytics for your own site, gets a whole lot easier. So I hope this video was helpful. If it was, please help us by spreading the word and sharing us on Twitter, Facebook, telling other people on Google+. And of course, if you haven't already, please visit us at seriouslysimplemarketing.com. We got lots of good stuff for you there. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next video.